I thank the CA Association for giving me this opportunity to talk on this platform. I thank Mr. Rajesh Shah and his team for organizing this webinar. So I've also been very closely associated to chartered accountants since childhood. My dad is into practice since over 50 years, and my brother also into 25 years of practice. So what I primarily understand from your profession that you're all into is it is a very desk oriented and a sedentary kind of a job. And that is why it is very important for all of y'all, not only during lockdown, but otherwise also, very important for all of y'all to follow certain ergonomic advice, posture corrections, and get into a change in your lifestyle on a regular basis rather than only looking at it during lockdown or later. So on that note, during lockdown, we have gone through a lot of mental as well as physical disturbances, and our mental and physical health has been compromised in various instances. So what I would like to do today is brief you on what really health means. So according to a definition of World Health Organization, health is defined as a state of complete mental, physical, social well-being of an individual and not merely absence of disease. So it very clearly says that you don't need to have a disease to be unhealthy. You can be unhealthy in many other ways, and we need to look at all those small aspects of ill health. So we need to be completely at good health with at the mind as well as the body. So during lockdown, we have gone through a lot of changes in our routine. We're doing more of housework, or maybe most of you all are actually using your desktops or laptops more as compared to what you used to in your other routines. And screen time has increased. Our routine has changed. We don't get up at the same time. We have to contribute, and I hope you all are contributing to the household chores more now than before. So with all these increased in burden, definitely there have been issues like neck pain, back pain, wrist pain, arm pains, which my patients have been complaining of. And I'm sure most of you all also would have been experiencing the same. So on one hand, we have these issues cropping up, and on the other hand, we don't know what to do about it. We don't know whether to address it and how to address the same, because we're fearing going out to a medical professional. We're fearing whether we could contract any unnecessary virus outside. So what at that time should we do? And by not addressing our pain or our issues, we are only hampering our daily routine. For example, if one of y'all was used to going for a 20-minute walk every day, but with all the household chores that have increased, you ended up with a back pain. And now with the back pain, you don't know whether you should walk with the pain, you should rest it out, or you should start doing some exercises. And this is when we would come to play, or we could help you by some online sessions. So we've done a lot of online videos, online sessions with our patients, and it involves just some active stretches, assessments, and some basic lifestyle changes, and they have shown remarkable differences in their routine. So and the recovery that they come back to me with gives me immense satisfaction, and that can be beyond words the way I feel. So so today's presentation is going to be some basic do's and don'ts that you need to follow during lockdown and later, and a simple set of exercises which I'm going to demonstrate today live. And these exercises are very easy to do. They can be incorporated in your daily routine. They don't need any assistance for you to do it, and they're effective, they're sustainable, and they're very simple. So now I would like to take you through a presentation which talks about 4 ways or 4 phases of exiting out through the lockdown. So a warm welcome again to all the CA Association members. Phase one. Phase one, we talk about do's and don'ts during lockdown and later. So any change in lifestyle for the good should be continued later. It should not be restricted to lockdown. And like you all were discussing earlier, lockdown probably it reopens tomorrow, at least partially for most of you all. So let us start today. Let us start for the better today. And the first point that I would highlight about is wake up time and sleep time. It's very important that every healthy individual gets 6 to 8 hours of good sleep. Sleep is very important to improve the functioning of your brain, to improve digestion, and it also improves or contributes to good health and immunity. It's so important that we are better on the immunity aspect right now in the present situation. So all of us should get our 6 to 8 hours of sleep in any routine that you follow. The next one would be talking about adhering to meal times. So if you follow a good sleep time and a wake up time, you'll automatically get into a better meal time. So you must have your breakfast, lunch, a snack and dinner. All the 4 meals very important. So stick to the routine, don't change, don't skip breakfast and just have a brunch. So wake up at the right time and follow all your meals. The next point is about portion control. I think personally, I have improved on my health and my digestive issues a lot with a simple, easy tip to follow, which is portion control. So when we sit down to eat any meal, we must eat through our stomach, not through our mind. We must remember that we need to eat only 80% of what our appetite is. So eat whatever is on your plate, but eat it in control, eat it in small portions, and that can save you from a lot of digestive issues and unnecessary building on fat. The next one is right food to eat. I think this question runs in every family. If all the men here are contributing to their household work or the kitchen chores, you all will also now have been exposed to the question or the question of the day ki aaj raat ko khana kya banaye. It's a very big question always going on in every house. At one side, we're bothering about what has to be cooked. The other side, we are also looking at what is the right amount of nutrition that has to be served on each plate every day. So according to me, a well balanced meal, that is nutrients consisting of all the important nutrients in a balanced proportion, is very important to be consumed every day. I think we must stick to cultural food, what we have grown up eating or what we have eaten all our life. That's what we should eat, not change to very drastic lifestyles, and everything that is in season, fresh, easily available around you. So you must eat all the mangoes that are available around you, but at the same time remember portion control. So eat the mango, but in the right amount. The next one is drink your way to health. I hope this is not ringing any wrong bells in your mind. I'm only talking about water. Drink your way to health. Drink at least 8 to 10 glasses of water every day. 60% of our body is actually made up of water. So we need water for absorption, better circulation. We also need water to maintain our body temperature. Other than that, water forms a very important aspect of our muscle. So it is important to energize our muscle. Water is important to energize our muscle. So the important electrolytes of water like sodium and chloride are very important during your exercise time. So if you've gone for a long jog on a sunny day, especially in a climate like Mumbai where there is so much of humidity, and you come back perspiring and with a lot of pain in your calf, that is because you have lost all the electrolytes and your calf muscle is dehydrated. What should you do then? You should replenish your electrolytes with lots of water or nariyal pani or nimbu pani. So water is very important, 8 to 10 glasses minimum, and can be increased depending upon the season. The next one is gadget use. Yes, today I am able to talk and communicate with all of y'all is sitting across state 700 kilometers is because of a gadget. Yes, gadgets have brought us closer together as a community, but we must know where and when to stop or minimize the use of gadgets. We're surrounded by gadgets. We have the laptop, we have the iPad, the phone, so many things all over us. So limit your screen time, adjust your personal and professional requirements with the screen time, and limit it to as less as possible, because this can save you from a lot of spinal issues, issues on the strain of the eyes, neck pains, and headaches. So limit gadget time to as minimum as possible. The last one on the do's and don'ts is power naps. This is a very tried and tested method, a 15-minute or a 20-minute, but not more than that. Power nap can take you a very long way. It reboots you, it recharges you, and definitely after the nap, you are more efficient and your capacity to perform is much better. And here I would like to quote Mahatma Gandhi. He says, "When I wake up, I am reborn." That means he is a new person when he wakes up after a good night's sleep. So that's the end of phase one, do's and don'ts during lockdown and later. We move on to phase two. So now that we have all the do's and don'ts in our mind, we are gearing up for a healthy lifestyle. So what comes to my mind first for a healthy lifestyle is supplements. Yes, our ancestors, grandparents never really indulged too much in supplements because the kind of food they ate or the environment that they were exposed to was different compared to what we are exposed to now. So it's very important to consider vitamin C, B complex, calcium, vitamin D, and B12 supplements. You can get yourself tested for the same, and depending on your levels, you could ask your physician to give you a prescription. But a regular dose of all these vitamins is very important to complement for a healthy lifestyle. Calcium and vitamin D have played a very important role in reducing the amount of skeletal muscle pains or injuries in the body. I've seen a lot of my patients who, when supplemented with these vitamins, have performed much better or have shown better results in recovery along with the treatments that we provide them. And they're able to do the exercises much better than anyone else with a low level of these vitamins. The next slide is about walking when you're talking. I think for anyone who has not started any form of an exercise, walking is the best and the easiest thing to do. You have your legs with you all the time. And what better could you do if you were given a choice to walk when you talk? So whenever you're on the phone, you can just move around instead of sitting in one place. But make sure that your phone is not stuck under your head because that would give rise to a lot of neck injuries. So walk when you talk. Walk at least 8 to 10,000 steps a day would be a good average for any healthy individual that considers the entire day. And a lot of gadgets available in the market which are calculating your steps a day. Those who can do that, they can go ahead with that. Those of you who have not got into all those things could start with at least a 10-minute walk in their building premise or in their corridor or on their terrace, whatever is permissible in your building, and increase every week 5 minutes increment, and your target walk should be around 40 minutes at the end of the month, but on a very medium pace, and you can progress to a faster pace as you start getting comfortable. Those of you who are not allowed to walk outside the house because of the containment restrictions can start walking within the house. And the best way to do that, according to me, what I advise most of my patients who are starting to walk is walk before every meal. So if you're going to sit for breakfast, take a 2 round of the entire house, then sit for breakfast, and like that similarly continue for the next meals. So that way you have already covered 10 rounds of your house throughout the day, and that could be a very good startup for you. So that is about walking. The next one is a very important slide about right posture. And believe me, 70% of patients coming into my clinic, irrespective of where the pain is, whether it's in the neck or the leg, have a bad posture. We are all bending forwards. And our spine is made in such a way that our neck has to be in line with our body. But most of the activities that we do throughout the day are all in a forward bend position. We eat looking down, we use our laptop looking down, we write looking down, we cook looking down, everything is looking down. We barely actually prop ourselves up. So posture becomes a very important aspect of beginning to do any exercise. So let it be yoga, let it be gymming, or let it be any simple exercise that you're starting to follow or are already following in your house. Very important to sit correct, use the right posture, and then follow the exercise. Otherwise, the entire idea of doing the exercise is completely lost. So now, before we talk about the good posture, I'm going to highlight few bad postures which are given in the picture here. The second posture is a forward head posture, very commonly seen in most of us, and it involves the individual protruding the head outwards, maybe trying to look into the screen or the mobile, can lead to a lot of neck pain, occipital headaches, frontal headaches, and upper back pain. The next slide, the third picture is about a uh, The third picture is about a thoracic kyphosis. So this comes in conjunct with the forward head posture, wherein when the individual has protruded his head outwards, the shoulders are trying to compensate and turn into a C-shaped curve to compensate for the loss in alignment because of the protruded head. This can give rise to neck pain, upper back pain, and secondary lower back pain. The fourth picture is about an exaggerated lumbar lordosis. If you see in the first picture, this is the natural concavity that our body has. It has a concavity on the neck and a concavity on the lower back area. But the fourth picture has an exaggerated concavity. This is a physiological phenomena in pregnant ladies, but could come as a pathology with individuals having a large belly or a weak abdominal. This could cause a lot of acute and chronic back pain and also tightness in your front thigh muscles. The last one is a sway back posture, less common, but can give rise to tightness in the groin area and secondary low back ache. The good posture. So here I'm talking about the right seated posture. I think this is very important for all of y'all to follow during lockdown and even later. So whenever you're trying to use your screen time or your laptop time, grab a chair which has a height all the way up to your upper back, just below the neck. Try to get a chair which has a good cushion at the back as well as the bottom. If your chair does not have a cushion at the back, you can use any of your house pillows and support your back entirely to the chair. So sit completely rested on the chair. Most of us are sitting in the front. We don't really rest our back on the chair, but that's how you can support your back. Keep your neck completely aligned with your upper body, the eyes in level with the screen. Your arms should be as close to your trunk and your elbows and wrist nicely rested on a hand rest. The trunk can be perpendicular to your hips and your knees perpendicular to your hips too. So maintaining these angles can prevent a lot of joint pains and spinal injuries that you can get into. I know it's not easy to remain in this kind of a posture for a very long time. So what I normally advise my patients to do is to get up every 20 minutes of seated time. So if you're sitting for 20 minutes, get up, stretch yourself around your table or walk around or go bring your own water bottle. Don't keep your water close to you. Don't ask for help. Go and do your own stuff and come back and sit. This movement will give you some agility. It will give you freeness from all the stiffness that can develop in your knees, your lower back, and your upper back. So this is the right seated posture. The next is a video demonstration of me trying to correct my posture. Most of y'all can follow this very easily. It can be done in sitting or standing, and we can try to maintain this kind of a posture throughout our day to prevent us from many injuries and improving our health. Have a look. So the first thing I do is tuck my chin in, roll my shoulders back, chest out, tummy tucked in, hips roll back, knees pressed behind, and heels nicely widely separated. From the side, chin tucked in, shoulders back, chest out, tummy tucked in, hips roll behind, knees pushed back, and heels nicely and widely separated. So this is the correct posture that most of us should be actually standing or walking in, but we really don't follow, or we don't really pay attention to that, and that can give rise to a lot of pain in your neck and upper back, but can so easily be corrected. So my next slide is going to be about a video. Before we get into a live demonstration of the exercises, I'm going to today highlight about the anatomy of the lung. It's a very simple layman way of demonstrating what really happens at the lung level, how the gaseous exchange takes place in the lungs. Lungs are very important, more so in the present situation. We have realized how important our lung conditioning and our lung capacity is, and how this video is going to explain to us how we can contribute to improve the conditioning of our lungs.
Many of us have hundreds of things on our minds at any moment, often struggling to keep track of everything we need to do. But fortunately, there's one important thing we don't have to worry about remembering: breathing. When you breathe, you transport oxygen to the body's cells to keep them working, and clear your system of the carbon dioxide that this work generates. Breathing, in other words, keeps the body alive. So how do we accomplish this crucial and complex task without even thinking about it? The answer lies in our body's respiratory system. Like any machinery, it consists of specialized components and requires a trigger to start functioning. Here, the components are the structures and tissues making up the lungs, as well as the various other respiratory organs connected to them. And to get this machine moving, we need the autonomic nervous system, our brain's unconscious control center for the vital functions. As the body prepares to take in oxygen-rich air, this system sends a signal to the muscles around your lungs, flattening the diaphragm and contracting the intercostal muscles between your ribs to create more space for the lungs to expand. Air then whooshes into your nose and mouth, through your trachea and into the bronchi that split at the trachea's base, with one entering each lung. Like tree branches, these small tubes divide into thousands of tinier passages, called bronchioles. It's tempting to think of the lungs as huge balloons, but instead of being hollow, they're actually spongy inside, with the bronchioles running throughout the parenchyma tissue. At the end of each bronchiole is a little air sac called an alveolus, wrapped in capillaries full of red blood cells containing special proteins called hemoglobin. The air you've breathed in fills these sacs, causing the lungs to inflate. Here is where the vital exchange occurs. At this point, the capillaries are packed with carbon dioxide, and the air sacs are full of oxygen. But due to the basic process of diffusion, the molecules of each gas want to move to a place where there is a lower concentration of their kind. So as oxygen crosses over to the capillaries, the hemoglobin grabs it up, while the carbon dioxide is unloaded into the lungs. The oxygen-rich hemoglobin is then transported throughout the body via the bloodstream. But what do our lungs do with all that carbon dioxide? Exhale it, of course. The autonomic nervous system kicks in again, causing the diaphragm to ball up and the intercostal muscles to relax, making the chest cavity smaller and forcing the lungs to compress. The carbon dioxide-rich air is expelled, and the cycle begins again. So that's how these spongy organs keep our bodies efficiently supplied with air. Lungs inhale and exhale between 15 and 25 times a minute, which amounts to an incredible 10,000 liters of air each day. That's a lot of work, but don't sweat it. Your lungs and your autonomic nervous system have got it covered.
So now that you all have seen how important our lungs is and how the autonomous nervous system is actually taking charge of everything without we actually doing anything or thinking about it. But why not help it and improve the capacity and the conditioning of the lungs and do our bit from our side? And it only involves very simple exercises which we can do very easily all by ourselves. So now I'm going to give you all 1 minute's time to sit back into a position which you all want to do the exercise. You could either spread a mat and sit down, or you could even sit on a chair and we get into the live exercises. Sitting on the floor is okay, sitting on the chair is okay, just be comfortable. So I assume all of you all are ready, and we start with the very first exercise. The first exercise, before we start, I want to brief about it. It's called pursed lip breathing. I don't think you all have ever heard about this, but it is a very simple exercise, very effective way of just improving the amount of oxygen going inside your lungs. Let's have a look. So sit upright in a comfortable position. Posture very important. Roll your shoulders back. Take a deep breath from the nose. Exhale, pursing your lips from the mouth. Again, a deep breath from the nose for 2 seconds and exhale out longer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's very important that we inhale and exhale. Inhale from the nose and exhale from the mouth. We inhale for 2 counts, 1, 2, whereas we exhale for 4 counts. That is the double of the inhalation. 1, 2, 3, 4. So when we inhale and when we exhale for longer the time than our inhalation, we are only improving the amount of oxygen going inside in the next inhalation. So we are facilitating our lungs to take in better oxygen inside our lungs the next breath. So for beginning, we could start with 2:4, that is 2 inhalations to 4 exhalations, and then we could progress to 4 inhalation and double the amount of exhalation. So pursed lip breathing, exhaling from the mouth, inhaling from the nose, and this could be practiced once every 2 hours, repeated for 3 repetitions every time you do it, and it can improve your lung capacity to a large extent. It also can be practiced during exercise when you're tired or you've walked a lot and you feel very exhausted. This exercise can do really wonders. The next exercise is a basic neck exercise, wherein we just roll the shoulders back. Sit upright and roll the shoulders back. The next one, hands on the shoulders and nice big rotations with your elbows. Bring the elbows to the front, rotate clockwise and anti-clockwise. Remember to sit upright during the entire exercise program. So nice big rotations, move your elbows, nice big circles, and feel the stretch on your upper back. The next one is an arm stretch, where you put your hand on the opposite shoulder. With the other hand, you pull your elbow to the opposite side. So you can hold at the wrist for a deeper stretch. So do it as you're comfortable. Hold the stretch for 5 counts. Feel the stretch on the outer side of your back. The other side, pull and hold for 5 counts. Hold at the wrist for a better stretch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And release. The next we move on to some chest expansions. So inhale with your hands up. Exhale as you come down. Again, inhale with your arms up. Exhale from the mouth. Remember, I am pursed lip breathing every time I am exhaling. So inhaling from the nose and exhaling happens from the mouth with a pursed lip, like how you're blowing into your cup of tea. A very, very gentle blow, but a long blow. Next one is an expansion of your chest to the sides. Inhale as you go to the side, exhale as you come in front. Inhale sidewards, exhale front. Some exercises for the hands, curling of your fingers and opening. We're using too much of gadgets, so our fingers definitely need this exercise and it can do wonders. Rotations of the wrist, clockwise, anti-clockwise. Because we're into too much of screen time, I would recommend this exercise of blinking of the eyes. So you can blink your eyes every 20 counts every 20 minutes of screen time, and that can really take off the strain from your eyes. Every 20 minutes of screen time, blink your eyes for 20 counts. So next we move on to the next set of exercise, where I would like you all to be, those of you all who were seated on the floor could get up and grab a chair and sit on the chair. And those of you who were already seated on the chair can remain so, and we'll be doing some knee extensions. I'll give you all some time to get adjusted to the positions. So we are ready. So we do some knee extensions, wherein you're seated completely supported on the chair, and you just, you're seated with your knees at the edge of the chair. Just pull up alternate legs, hold there, pull your calf towards you, feel the stretch on your calf, up and down. You can hold, you can pull up, hold for 5 counts. You can do a 5 repetition on each side alternating. Okay. The next one is an exercise in standing position. So take the same chair and stand near it, and face the chair. Just giving some time for all of you all to get into the position. So holding on to the chair, on your toes, on your heels, standing straight. No bending at the back because the purpose is lost. So you stand on your toes, straight back, on your heels. Only if you do it that way, you will feel a good stretch on your calf. The next one would be bending the knees. So you can bend all the way up to the hip, or you can go till whatever your comfort level, at least to a 90-degree bend. The next one is just a side leg raise. Very good for your outer side or your thigh muscles. Raising the leg, remember the back remains straight, the head remains straight, and you raise your legs on the outer side. The last set of exercises, you can get rid of the chair and stand on your mat or just wherever you are with your feet widely separated. Place your hands on your waist, feet separated, shoulders back, posture correct, and these are called as twists. Good for the back, good to stretch the back. Twist to the side, you can go as deeper as you can. Has to be slow, maintain the stretch. The next one is a side bend to the left, to the right. Look up when you're bending to the side. And the last set of exercises is what I call the ultimate stretch, wherein you hold your hands and stretch up on your toes. Hold the position for 5 counts. Up, hold. You can go on your heels. If you're not able to go on your heels and balance yourself, you can very well just stand in your place. Go up, hold the position for 5 counts and come down. Gives a very good stretch on the lower body as well as the upper body. So these were a set of basic exercises that anybody could follow, and very simple to do, and hardly takes 10 minutes of your daily time. And we could progress from here to a further set of exercises, which can depend on the requirement of the patient or any ailment that they are suffering with. So after having a look at all the exercises, we need to understand what is the basic purpose of doing the exercise. So unfortunately, most of us do exercise only to change the way we look. We hardly do any exercise for the health benefits that they carry. We are worried about whether we lost weight with exercise or our arms looking better. We give ourselves targets like, after 1 month of gymming, I want to lose 5 kgs of weight, or I want to look slimmer on my waist, or I want a better thigh. But that's not how exercise should be looked at, because at the end of the month, if you're not able to lose that amount of weight, or if you're not able to get slimmer on your waist, you're discouraged from the entire idea of doing exercises, and then the whole purpose is lost. So let us not set targets of how we look, but look at the larger picture, what exercise can give us, that is the health benefits of exercise, especially in a country like ours where diabetes, blood pressure is so prevalent. We need to exercise, all of us need to exercise for so many other reasons than only the way we look. And this is a survey which says women are more likely than men to report the benefits of exercise, because they say they felt good about themselves. Definitely after you've exercised, you feel good about yourself. It gave you more energy. You felt less stress. So it is a stress buster. When you go out for a walk or you go out cycling, you do come back more energized and more refreshed. So these are another, some more reasons why you could actually exercise. Other than that, exercise has improved health, improved the quality of life, fitness, given you definitely better posture, balance, a stronger heart, better capacity of fighting illness, which is what we're looking at right now, that exercise is very important to combat the present situation. We need to improve the conditioning of our lungs. We need to improve the capacity of our lungs. It does give us weight loss and stronger muscles and bones. On the mental aspect, exercise has definitely improved, reduced depression, reduced anxiety, prevents stress, definitely gives better sleep, improves your mental alertness, and leaves you more relaxed. Socially, of course, we're not looking at social aspect right now in the social distancing time, but I have seen a lot of my patients who are into even a Zoom class, which is like even now when we are all together performing the exercise, we do improve on relationships, we improve on our social skills, and exercise done together is always more fun. On the emotional aspect, it improves happiness, improves the mood, it gives you a feeling of self-worth. You feel that you've done something for the day. It gives better confidence and esteem. And when you can, when you've targeted of lifting a 5 kg dumbbell on your biceps and you're able to do it, you do get a feeling of success. It lowers your sadness, tension, and definitely reduces anger. So that was phase 3 of lockdown, and now we're into phase 4 as to what you take away from lockdown, what lockdown has actually taught you. So I think family time. This is something which has always been compromised. We are all on a rat race, like explained earlier. We don't pay attention to health. We're all running behind wealth, and lockdown has actually brought us back together. We are spending more time eating more meals together. But this is what we need to actually carry forward. I'm sure most of you all will agree that our children are more happy with the time we invest in them rather than the expensive gifts we buy them. This is what they're going to actually take back from us later on. So in your family time has to be improved, and let us continue doing this even after lockdown. This should be your takeaway from lockdown. The second point is a hobby. Most of you all would have indulged into hobby, if not anything, at least started cooking in the kitchen. So continue that, continue it as a hobby, because when your mood is elevated, you definitely feel much healthier on the mind as well as the body. My patients have given me examples of starting guitar practices and Bharatnatyam all online or during lockdown. So let us all follow a hobby for all the good reasons. Celebrate life. I think this needs no explanation. We need to celebrate life more so in the present situation. We have really understood the value that life carries with it. So let us celebrate each day. Let us cherish each moment that we have today and tomorrow. The last message that I would like to spread is definitely positivity. There is so much other things that are spreading outside. The least we could do is spread positivity. If one member of your family is smiling, it makes the entire family laugh. So that's the easiest and the simplest thing that we could do, spread positivity. Let's all be happy and combat the whole situation together. So I hope you all have taken good, valuable stuff from this presentation. I request you all to stay safe and stay healthy. If you all are going to open up tomorrow, like Mr. Rajesh explained, I think the corona has not gone, but the fear from corona has definitely decreased in all of us. So let us be very cautious even when you are going to open up. Use all the norms that have been described by the government. Stay safe, use a mask, and follow adequate social distancing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Priya Ben. Now, do we have time for question and answer? 10-15 minutes?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Friends, whoever are on the webinar and would like to raise any question, please put it on the Q&A mode so that we can sort it out in the next 10-15 minutes, which the speaker has given it to us. Vipul bhai, any question from your side? Maitri Ben?
I have a question, Dr. Priya. In the exercise, the first exercise was the breathing exercise.
Yes.
How I do yoga and pranayam every day. So pranayam also, Anulom Vilom is one pranayam which is relating to breathing.
Yes.
So how is it different than the exercise which you suggested? Anulom Vilom is good enough?
Pardon?
Anulom Vilom, the pranayam.
Yes. So Anulom Vilom is a traditional method of following that is followed in yoga. But pursed lip breathing, like I explained through the lung anatomy video also, what it really does is it improves the next inhalation. So it actually facilitates your lungs to exhale out all the carbon dioxide so that your next inhalation, you're carrying in more oxygen. So I'm not saying that don't do your Anulom Vilom. You definitely should carry on with your Anulom Vilom, but you could probably additionally add a little bit of pursed lip breathing into your regular routine. And pursed lip breathing, you need not actually sit down into yoga pose and do it. Do it whenever possible, even when you're on your walk and you're getting tired. That's when you cannot do your yoga pranayam. That's when you need to do the pursed lip breathing. So during your walk, when you're panting and you're out of breath, that's when you should be exhaling from the mouth, like that, pursed lip breathing. And you will see the difference definitely once you start practicing. I'm sure you'll realize the difference.
Okay, thank you.
Priyaben, we have got a very good number of 6 to 7 questions. You would like me to read, or you can see on the Q&A?
Yeah, I can see. So
yes.
The first question is says, kindly suggest some exercise for low back pain. So okay, I would like to play a video about some low back exercises. Let me just have a look at all the questions, and then we can probably get into what is most commonly asked. So the next one says, please share the presentation of afterwards. Sure, I'll do that. How good is climbing of stairs an exercise in this lockdown period? So before we get into the low back pain exercises, I would like to answer these two questions. How good is climbing of stairs as an exercise in this lockdown period? So
it's in the answer.
Climbing, pardon?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so climbing of stairs is definitely a very good exercise during lockdown or later, but it depends on how used to you're doing the same activity, whether you're actually used to doing a good 2-3 flight of stairs. If you're not used to doing a staircase at all and you have been using your lift, or you don't have a stairway inside your house and you're suddenly going to get into doing these exercises, you can do more harm to yourself than good. So maybe if you want to improve, all again depends on many other criteria, your age, your conditioning, or the condition of your knees, because your knees can get into some injuries if you're going to do too much of a staircase climb. Again, all depends on an assessment that is required from our side to actually brief you into further. But if you want to start in, and if it's a startup, maybe you could start just 1 or 2 steps going up and down in a very, very graduated manner, like a 5 up and a 5 down. That would be on day 1, and you could progress on alternate days to 10 up and a 10 down. That is, I'm talking about only one step where you just go up on the right, then left, and right, and then left. Just on one step. So you need not actually go down a good flight of stairs. You could just try the stepper exercise, and then you can progress into actually climbing a flight of stairs and down. That is good enough to condition your legs as well as your heart. So that answers that question. And please provide some good exercise to increase lung capacity. Also, whether running is good to increase lung capacity. Of course, running is very important to improve lung capacity. Again, the same protocol holds true is whether you're actually into running up till now. So if you're not into running, and if you think running is going to improve lung capacity, so you start running from tomorrow, that's not the right way to go about. You must start with graduated, probably follow the exercises that I have given you, and then start into a 10-minute walk, progress to a 40-minute walk after a month. And once you have been able to do a 40-minute walk comfortably without causing any injuries to your legs or spine, then you could actually progress into light jogging. That could be like a 3-minute jog and some walk, a 3-minute jog. So introduce like a 9 or 10-minute jog into your walking program, and then you could actually gradually get into proper running or jogging for few kilometers. But it has to be gradual. You cannot drastically introduce running into your body just because you want to improve the lung capacity. Can we improve BMI with the help of these exercises? Basic metabolic index, yes, you can improve BMI with all these exercises, and so many other things like I spoke about, portion control, eating at time, eating small meals at every time. All these can contribute to improving your BMI. After meal, how much time we should wait for breathing exercise? So normally the protocol or the standard rule is that let's not do any exercise half an hour to 45 minutes post a meal. We don't really indulge any of our patients into any exercise, let it be breathing or any other exercise. So we can wait for 40-45 minutes. Even a walk, you should restrict from walking also. Like a proper walk after a meal, definitely not advisable. So 40-45 minutes is the ideal time, I would say. Whether good lungs help fight COVID? Yes, there is a lot of evidence which says that a good lung could help your response to COVID-19. I mean, of course, none of us want to get COVID, but if your lung capacity is on the better side, your capacity to fight the disease is definitely enhanced. Because it is a virus which is attacking your lungs, and it is causing your lungs to be in a compromised state. So if you have a good lung conditioning, if your immunity is good, it would definitely contribute to improving or your faster recovery from COVID. Does sitting in Vajrasana position affect knee joints? So Vajrasana is a very good position to improve your digestion. So they say after a meal you should sit in the yoga pose, which is Vajrasana. That improves the circulation in your digestive system. Now, if your knees allow you to sit into Vajrasana position, only then you should actually indulge into it. But if you have an existing osteoarthritis or a pain in the knee, and you're going to push your knee into sitting in Vajrasana only for the digestive benefits, then you're doing again more harm to your body than good. So I think first you should definitely look at the knee, condition the knee, and make sure that your knee is in a good position to attain the position. Vajrasana will not affect the knee joints at all if there is no existing or existing knee condition from beginning. If there is, then sitting in Vajrasana for a very long time could hamper the knee. Do you think some of the exercises suggested should not be done if someone has hypertension? So whatever exercises I have suggested, even the pursed lip breathing or any of those exercises, sitting on a chair, if you're comfortable and you're not feeling giddy or dizzy, I don't think any of these exercises should be not followed by someone suffering from hypertension. Most of them are very simple and can be done very, very comfortably by you. But if you do feel any discomfort during the exercise, you must probably stop and take some more advice from us and go ahead with the next one. Patients with spondylitis, what exercise to be done? Will breathing exercise help? So cervical spondylitis can happen in the neck as well as the back. Spondylitis is a condition wherein there is degenerative changes or inflammation in your bones. So it could be at the neck and could be at the back. So I'm not sure which area you're talking about. Cervical spondylitis, if you're talking about the neck, cervical spondylitis, I did demonstrate some basic exercises. First thing would be correcting your posture, that is pushing your chin inside, rolling your shoulders back. I think these two exercises form a very, very important role in taking our health to a next level, because most of us are with our head outward, like I explained in the video also. So pushing the head in and rolling the shoulders behind is the first thing that you could do. Other than that, I did explain some exercises wherein we roll the shoulders behind, some arm stretches, and some more exercises which we could do depending on what level of problem there is. So cervical spondylitis can come along with some pain radiating to the hand, some weakness in the hand. It can have a lot of giddiness or occipital headache. So we need to assess the situation and then move ahead. Breathing exercises per se help in overall improvement of general health and not really one condition. You have to look at yourself as a holistic approach and do the breathing exercises irrespective of what problem you have. Left hand is paining and not able to get up hand like right hand. Sometimes it gives pain when hand movement back or other way. What to do? So it's very difficult to answer this question because I need to have a look or probably assess as to why you're not able to lift your hand. If it is just around the shoulder or it's going down the entire arm, there could be two conditions. Why would you have pain in the hand? One could be arising from the neck, like a pinched nerve, or you could be having an underlying shoulder inflammation or a frozen shoulder, which we need to assess. Then I would be able to answer you effectively. Do you recommend medication as a means to mind stability? Meditation, yes, meditation I think is very important, where we actually get time to look within ourselves, or we get some peaceful time from our daily routine where we are so busy and all the time we have so many things on our mind. So meditation in so many ways, and meditation not only involves in just sitting and chanting a mantra. I think meditation could be even just listening to good music or reading a good book, or anything where you're doing quietly a peaceful your time or me time. Very important to improve mind stability. It improves your capacity to perform better. So definitely meditation is a big yes. Is it required to put an LS belt for a person having back pain during walk? So back pain again is a very general term given to any pain arising at your lower back. But why the back pain is arising, whether it's because of a degenerative condition of the back, or it is because of a disc prolapse, or it's only a muscle sprain. So we need to get into the assessment as to why you have a back pain on the first hand. And if you're able to walk with the back pain, and if you think, we do recommend a lot of supportive belts for our patient. LS belt is good when you have a when you want to walk with a back pain. So assess yourself how you feel, whether your back pain reduces with using an LS belt. But I would not recommend using the LS belt for a very prolonged period. What these belts do is they become an artificial corset around your back, and that does not allow your natural muscles to engage or to work, because they're used to having protection all the time. So eventually what you'll get into is a more weaker back. So LS belt, yes, when you're in pain and when you need to improve your mobility, or when you need to go to do your regular calls, you can use it. But get yourself assessed as to why you have back pain, get to the source of the problem, strengthen your back or improve the conditioning of your back, and gradually, with the advice of a physiotherapist or your doctor, reduce the use of your back LS belt so that your muscles do not get weaker because of the overuse. Exercise to reduce belly fat. I wish it was so easy to reduce belly fat, but exercise is one aspect, and your diet, your cardio fitness is the other aspect of reducing belly fat. So belly fat is a very easy way where fat can get deposited because those muscles are very less used. So I think a good cardio program forms a very important aspect of reducing overall fat. So you should get into like if you're a startup, again start with walking and gradually increase to a 40-45 minute of walk. Whenever the condition permits, you can go for a swim or a cycle. Cardio exercise is what I would recommend to reduce fat anywhere in the body, and then you can get into toning. Instead of walking, will playing of a badminton game for say 30 minutes suffice the basic purpose? Yes, so badminton is also a cardio exercise along with all the other benefits of the game. Like it does move your arms, it moves your legs, and it is a social game where you play with other people around. So it does improve your mood, it improves your social skills, and it has definitely much more benefits than actually walking. But at the same time, you have to look into what you're able to do, and primarily I would suggest start with a walk, and again improve or increase your capacity and get into a sport. So you need to get into the prerequisites of entering into a sport. Stretch yourself before the game, a good stretch, and at the end of the game, a good cool down, very important, so that you can play effectively. What is correct method of lying down and getting up from the bed? Do you advise to get up from bed with some time relaxing your muscles? So correct method of lying down. I think lying down, the correct position of lying down would be on either side. So I tell all my patients to have a nice comfortable pillow under the neck, not the head, but definitely your neck has to be supported. You're lying with your pillow under the neck, and to any side, left or right, or you could keep shifting positions from left to right, and you can put a pillow in between your knees. This is a very relaxing position, both for digestive issues as well as for your spine. So lying on any side with a pillow under the neck and a pillow between the knees. Do you advise to get up from bed with some time relaxing your muscles? Getting up from bed, also always turn to one side and then get up. Never get up straight from the bed. That can give rise to a lot of back issues. And advise to get up from bed with some time relaxing your muscles. So I recommend all my patients to actually do whatever exercises I have told them to do, let it be the neck exercise or the knee exercise or the back exercise. I tell them actually to do those exercises before even getting out of the bed. So do them, prepare your muscles, warm up your muscles, and then get out of the bed. So that way your chances of injuring your body are much less than without doing exercises and getting up. Is capacity to hold breath for some time indicative of the fact that your lungs are in good shape to fight corona? I don't think so. There is no as such evidence which says that you can, if you have the capacity to hold your breath, you are in good shape to fight corona. No, I don't think that is the way to assess your lungs. There are many other things that probably you can get yourself checked for, but there is a good evidence which says that your capacity or your improved conditioning of your lungs with breathing exercise or general good can help you fight corona better than anything else. Kindly suggest some exercises for gallstones dissolution, enlarged prostate, and left inguinal mild hernia. So these are conditions which are more related to the medicinal or the surgical aspect, and not directly related to physiotherapy. Whether we would probably contribute to post-surgical aspects of all these rather than actually pre-surgical aspects of all the conditions that are mentioned here. can we do Anulom Vilom or yoga exercise around 7:30 in the evening, or it should be done in the morning? So yoga predominantly is a morning phenomena, because for many other reasons, that you are exposed to sunlight, which is very important. Sunlight is a very good source of vitamin D. So for those reasons, I think you could do yoga in the morning. But if you have a time constraint, let us not put that excuse in and stop doing yoga. So you can very well do it in the evening at 7:30 too, but the advantages of doing yoga in an open air in sunlight would definitely have more value. Is there any exercise to get relief from pain in the throat? So we need to get into why there is pain in the throat, whether it is a sore throat, an inflammation in your glands, or it is, what are the reasons? Yeah, primarily throat pain is because of some inflammation in your glands. So we need to get into why do you have the inflammation. Exercise to relieve pain in the throat, not really, unless you have undergone a surgery or there is a thyroid issue, then we can look into it in a different way. But pain in the throat primarily is because of an underlying infection. So gargling, and maybe you can follow these breathing exercises to help in your improvement capacity. Planks help to correct posture, the hump. Planks is a very good exercise, very effective on your upper, mid and lower back. A sustainable plank, again, you start with a basic getting to the plank position, holding for few seconds and then relieving from the position, and then you can progress to a 30-second hold or a 1-minute hold. But again, gradual progression, and it can definitely help to improve or correct your posture. If posture is now become bent, any ideas on how to improve it? So we need to get into assessment first as to where it is bent, whether it's bent at the cervical area or the thoracic area or the lumbar area, and bent on which side, how much is the curvature, and according to that we could suggest you some stretches to improve your posture. What are the benefits of vegan diet? So I don't think I really recommend a vegan diet. There are so many. I am a vegetarian myself, a pure vegetarian, not even egg. But there are so many benefits which we do get from animal source, which are not there in a vegan diet. So it's purely out of choice. And those who are into a vegan diet can look into supplements like vitamin B12 and vitamin D. Benefits of vegan diet, probably it's definitely lower on the fat value, especially the red meat aspect of it. But I think other than that, it's purely out of choice. I would not push any of my patients into following a vegan or a non-vegetarian diet. Do you recommend to wait for 4 to 5 minutes in bed, relaxing muscles before coming out of bed, particularly senior citizens? So that is one question which I've already answered. Waiting in bed or probably warming up, I think, is very important to get out of bed. To get ready into your routine is more important than actually relaxing. You have been relaxing with a good sleep. So getting prepared to get out of bed is more important than actually relaxation. And most of these exercises need to be done in a very relaxed and a comfortable manner. You don't need to speed up to it. If you don't have enough time in the morning, you can probably just do 2 or 3 repetitions of these exercises, but need not go fast. Do you agree that pranayama is the best exercise for lungs and breathing? Yes, of course, pranayama is a very good exercise for lungs and for breathing. It's a very old tradition which has been followed in India and now all over the world. It has spread like fire, and I think yoga has done very good. It's the traditional way of doing exercise. So pranayama, definitely yes for pranayama. How useful is the use of foam roller for muscular pain? Yes, so a lot of physios have started using the foam roller. It's a very good way of relieving your pain in your own household. So you can use foam rollers exactly at the area of a trigger point, but I would recommend you do that along with the advice of a physiotherapist or whoever has suggested you the same. So you can appropriately use the foam roller rather than it causing any harm to you. please suggest some exercises for shoulder muscular pain. So shoulder muscular pain, I have done a few stretches like arm raises and side raises. Shoulder muscular pain can be arising from the neck or the shoulder. So we need to get into the assessment as to where the pain is arising from and what is the reason. But for the basics, again, first thing you need to do is sit upright, and as many times as possible, you need to roll your shoulders back. So most of the harm done to our shoulder joint is because we are reducing the space available inside for our muscles. So we are, all the time like that. Even if you're using the laptop or the mouse, we're putting your hands up and actually compressing all the tissues inside. So the first thing you need to start up with is pushing your shoulders behind, and probably you can do that every 2 hours, 5 repetitions of just pushing your shoulders behind, holding for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 counts and releasing. That should do a lot of good to you.